What is going on, guys? It's Bingo, and I'm with the Duel Factory and Douglas French for this week's episode of X2 Drop. It's our Yu-Gi-Oh podcast we do every week, talking about something. And this week, we wanted to stop looking at product and policy reviews and just talk about something that most people can appreciate, and that would be the beauty and appeal of max rarity. Why people gravitate towards it, like why we do it specifically, what the upsides are, what the downsides are. The biggest downside, I think we all already know, is it's freaking expensive. So the biggest offender of this by a large margin in our group is the Duel Factory, aka Joe, whose collection could be a payment for a house. So I will let him talk about his experience with collecting, why he got into max rarity, and I'll let him take it away and we'll go from there. So.
Well, it all comes down to the golden rule of use. And for most of us who are connoisseurs of high rarity cards, we already know is it does not run right if it's not max rarity. So let's just get that out of the way.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a common.
Yeah, what is common? It's all the right. Commons are pack filler for the actual good high price cards. My bad. I don't know. I know when I first got back in the I don't know. It's the only hobby that I actually put a bunch of time and effort into. So I just got to the point where I'm like, hey, I kind of like having my high rarity cards, And then I think what really, really solidified it is I think that one, and he was cutting my deck while we were playtesting, and he just looked at me, he's like, fuck, this just feels expensive. And that was the best feeling in the world.
I gotcha. So, ignoring half of Joe's toaster internet connection, it feels nice to invest in your hobby, right? When you're playing it, if you got the expendable income, it's really nice feeling good about the cards you're playing. There's an argument that it's stupid, but if I am playing this game, just like if I'm playing any other game, I want to put a little bit of money into it here and there outside of just the bare bones basics, and investing into the cards that look pretty and look really nice and have actually more long-term value is where the appeal is to me, because when I'm buying into this game, I want to hold on to cards. So if I can get if I can get an Ulti Desires versus a Secret right now, even though I've had Secrets since they came out, I'm going to go with the Altis because that's going to sustain my investment longer. It looks better, arguably. I'm
just putting this out here. Raiden pointed out in our chat earlier, but max rarity cards are spell speed for.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody knows the memes, Common Ash Blossom isn't a quick effect, or I don't know, Common Ash Blossom doesn't negate certain effects. Commandante doesn't mill for cost. But it's strictly aesthetically pleasing. And when you're playing this game day in, day out, and you're enjoying it and you're talking about it as much as we do, you want to have a little bit of status. Right? You're going to locals, you want to have something that makes your opponent say, that looks really fucking good. And whether you're playing Dark Magician or Max Rarity Crystal Beast or whatever the new meta hotness is, personally, I like to have expensive cardboard. Why? I don't know. It's just what I want to do.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the aesthetic, for sure. I can remember when I first started going to Die Hard, when I actually going to Yeti, when Joe was running the store. I was looking through one of his collection binders at the counter, and I got to the page that had all the different mirror forces on it. And I was just looking at the card, and the page, and it just looked beautiful. And it was actually after I saw that page that I started to collect and collect max rarity cards. Before that, I didn't pay much attention to the rarity of the card that I played. But since then, and this is something that you brought up just a minute ago, John, Since then, I've actually used my acquisition of cards to build up a base to where my Yu-Gi-Oh hobby is now a self-funded hobby. Like, I don't have to invest any more money into it because I'm able to get the higher rarity cards, and then eventually I can move those for other cards, and it just kind of self-perpetuates. But what initially drew me to it was that aesthetic of the whole higher rarity version of a card.
Yeah, and when your competitive nature is gonna ebb and flow. It's not gonna be constant. You're never gonna be going I'm trying to top this YCS for the next 5 years, right? You're not gonna have that drive, and being able to fall back on a collection and still being engaged with the game is one of the reasons that I still keep picking up cards here and there, even though I'm not playing competitively right now. I want to pick up the alties from that OTS I missed a couple sets ago. I'm looking at picking up what is it, Cosmics soon, hopefully. I should have got them when they were 30s, but I kind of messed up. But that's the appeal for me, is it's still a way to be engaged with the game and still be building this hobby when I'm not hyper competitive, because I'm not going to pick up max rarity meta deck, or not max rarity. I'm not going to pick up the new meta deck just to watch it sit in my binder most of the time, unless I'm very actively engaged in competitive play, because then I want everything. And no, Joe, that wasn't a direct attack on you.
Yeah. But I mean, Joe and I have this conversation, and you sometimes too. There's different ways to look at max rarity, and all.
No, there is.
Joe, maybe you should give us your opinion of what constitutes max rarity first.
Yeah, I wanted to get into this because is max rarity the most expensive version of the card? I would argue yes to that even, but it's.
I would like to say yes, but so there's some stuff so for example, I think one of the common things that I saw there for a little bit and saw, but oh shit, I just forgot Mike's. Okay, so I think everyone remembers when Dark Arm Dragon and JD, right? There was the argument what's max rarity, secret and ulti, right?
Yeah.
They were both the same price for God knows how long. And I think at that point, max rarity kind of comes down, for example, in the argument for ulti versus secret Dark Arms and JDs, I picked up secrets. At the time, they were the same exact price, and I just preferred the secret rares out of the older sets, and I still do. But at that point, when it comes to the actual value of the card and stuff like that, I think it comes to preference at that point, right? But
yeah, definitely.
At that point, there's a lot of cards people for. You guys got the reprint, good one. Necron is a Shrit, right? That card got reprinted as an Ultra. Me personally, I still think the max rarity version of it's the Super because it was originally printed out of the Secret Forces, and I think it's harder to pick up than the Ultra Rare that just got reprinted. So me personally, that's where I think that version guys got the Ultra Rare is the max rarity.
Yeah, and a lot of this, max rarity comes down to what you view as the most worthwhile investment and what you find the most appealing. Because, a lot of cards, I very much prefer the secret rare printing, not because it's cheaper, but because secret rare is by far my favorite rarity. Now, I have ulti invocations, I have ulti desires, and it's because those cards I know I'm going to get a lot of mileage out of. But there are so many cards where I definitely opt to, if there's a Astral Pack Super or a relatively new ultra rare from some random reprint set, I'll usually go towards ultra rare because I just like the more foiling, and on the rarity scale, super, ultra, secret, ulti, I prefer just to go up on that. And I know you're on the total opposite side of the spectrum where you prefer OTS supers and Astral Pack supers over like the relatively easy to get ultra rares or reprint secrets and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely. I think on a long term investment.
So on a long term investment.
Yeah, I think they're a better long term investment because I think value out of them personally myself.
I think you were also right, Joe, that some of it does come down to personal preference, though, because if you're picking up max rarity and you're picking it up for yourself and you're not picking it up to sell, then, the long-term investment may be there for an original print card. But I think that sometimes it comes down to eventually Konami will print a card in a rarity that goes up the ladder, like John was talking about, so much higher than a previous one that it'll outweigh that. But at the same time, you're never going to maybe out rarity one of the old Turbo Packs or Champion Pack cards that came as a super, even if you print it as an ulti.
Yeah, like Turbo, Retro, and Champion Packs, like those cards are kind of like on their own level of rarity. Like those are just collectors cards at this point, honestly. They're not unnecessarily expensive, but they are justifiably expensive because of what they are. And I prefer an ultra rare Upstart Goblin to the super rare from, what was it, Turbo Pack?
Oh, my Turbo Pack Upstart Goblin.
I think the ultra rare looks really good, and I choose to play that even though I have a Turbo Pack super that I like the ultra foiling,
People were like, I'd tell you cards that actually, here's a really good one that just recently happened, because the new people are going nuts over Ultimate Rare Book of Moons, and I'm like, so I have, because before the Ultimate Rare came out, I was like, I have a
You have a playset of what?
Champion Pack Super Book of Moon.
Mm-hmm. But there's something that needs to be pointed out here, and that is the price tag on one of those Book of Moons, one of those old printings. It's like how many hundreds of dollars, and for a lot of people, that's just not a feasible investment. So I think we notice this a lot in the secondary market when you can't get what is the max rarity because the price becomes too unattainable. Then people start looking at what's the second highest rarity, and I don't know. Yeah. I think that some value gets lost there.
It's really hard to find that weird cutoff between collectors valuable and like playability max rarity, because I'm not going to walk into a venue playing like, I don't know. Let's say I was playing Empty Jar at this day and age, right? I'm not going to play, was it TP1 Morphing Jar?
Pussy.
I'm not going to walk into locals playing a card that, what's that, like several $1,000s right now?
Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah, I'm not going to pass that to my opponent so he can cut, because like that's just bad investment, because it's going to degrade. It's not going to be near mint anymore. And like this is what I worry about with my Max Cs, because if that card comes off, I'm going to want to play the alties. But
Bathinator scratches the top of your card.
At the same time, if I'm going to locals or regional, like I don't trust my opponent. If let's say it jumps from 0 to 3, Max C's fucking $700, right? I got $2,100 of 3 cards in my deck. Am I really gonna play with that?
That's why I kind of like the new tournament rules where you can't touch your card. Oh, that's fantastic. I'm like, yes. You can't ruin my very poor investment. Thank fucking Kami.
I mean, would that be a poor investment? You got your Maxis for like 30 a pop, or did you get them for free?
I got my playset of Maxis from Brendan Sullivan. Shout out to him for $60 because he was getting out of the game, and it took 4 years to make that insane investment. But bro, let me tell you, it felt like chewing the.
Yeah. So. Yeah. This whole like when I'm talking max rarity, I like when I use that term, it's usually for playing, because we definitely have a lot of discussions here about playing the game, we don't really talk about collecting that much, but if I'm investing for collecting, I am making a market decision at a low point in a very expensive card that I want to pick up. Now, if I'm playing a deck, like I'm not going to invest $600 in a playset of some random super from a really old pack when there's a secret rare Book of Moon that I love the look of from the Legendary Collection, Yugi's World, right?
I think it was breaking 2 Legendary Collections, actually.
Yeah, I absolutely love the secret rare Book of Moon, and I will play that probably over the ulti.
You guys are breaking my heart right now.
I know, but I still want the ulti. You know, it's that weird, like, I want to play the secret, but I understand, even excluding the old super rare printing, I understand it's not max rarity. So, like, personally, I need to find a way to get the ultimate rares, or else I can't say I have it.
Yeah. And I think that I'm probably, I don't know, between you and I, John, which of us has been like collecting higher rarity cards for the least amount of time? But I think it's only been like, 3 years for me. And my collection has gone from, I don't know, probably a few $100s to close to like 10 grand probably when I put everything together.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have a larger collection than me by a large margin.
But I don't have like what people would call collector's cards like Joe has. Like you were talking about, like I pick up cards that I'm going to play, that I'm willing to play at a higher rarity. And then, I don't know, there's kind of like a system to bumping up your rarity when you can. But if we go back to the very beginning of what we were talking about, it's like you said, from what Joe said, there's a bit of a prestige, or you get that feeling when you flip that card over and you know that card is one of the best, if not the best version of that card that you can play.
Yeah. Now, on that note, for some reason, this jumped into my head. Joe, is it Metal Raiders Solemn Judgment or Ultimate Rare Solemn Judgment?
Retro pack.
Or, yeah, sorry.
Is this even a debate? Are you pranking me?
I don't know. I
like
might say the Metal Raiders is harder to get.
Yeah, a near
is probably the primo of all of them, just because, especially since that was one of the sets that they had. They had to pull it off the shelves. Remember, because it had the
had magic cards in it.
Mm-hmm.
So probably Metal Raiders first set. Personally, myself, if I'm gonna spend the money on those cards, I'm either gonna pick up the Retro Pack Supers, which I love Retro Pack cards. 100% fan of Retro Pack cards. Or I'm probably, I don't know, I might honestly take the money and invest in, if I was going to that card, that's what I would buy. But like in terms of that, I think there's not really like a set definition for max rarity on that one. I think it's just preference, because all the copies you're going to buy are somewhere.
Like my preference for the Salon Brigade is Ultimate Rare, because they all come in Ultimate Rare, right? And if I'm playing a trap heavy deck, like I got a Solemn Strike, a Solemn Warning, and a Solemn Judgment all set, all ulti, like that feels really good.
Ultimate Rare trap cards are super crisp. I'm just putting this out there, and I'm not a fan of trap cards.
So would you say that Ring of Destruction ulti is better than Secret?
I think that's another one that just I have. Mainly because whoever had them, when I picked, they had a real deal on them. I have a play. It's from them.
Yeah, I know you have the secrets.
But I think at that point, it's just kind of like time, because like I think they relatively go for looking from a collector standpoint. Like the dude just had them and threw them in to like finish out a deal we were doing. It seems I'm getting them at a really good price, so that's why I just picked them up at. Like, because sometimes that stuff just kind of falls in your lap. Like, I didn't want them, but some guy had a set of Ultimate Rare DD Crows that I picked up at a decent price. Again, when I bought that stuff off Brendan, I got those Maxis at a decent price. Like, a lot of my stuff, like, just picking up throughout the years, you find these cards at prices. For example, another good example of it, the Cyber Dragon deck, right? I have all that stuff foiled out max rare, and it's fucking gorgeous. But I didn't pay a lot of money for that stuff. Like the Cyber Dragons I picked up when they were, and now they're like super expensive. The Power Bonds and Overload fusions I got for good deals. The only thing I think I overpaid for, honestly, is the Machine.
Yeah, but those were up because of what was that deck out at the time that was using those? Yeah, Spiral.
Oh, you picked up Machine Dupe in Spiral format? Yeah, that's rough.
Call, but I mean, that it is what it is. And then, like, I don't know.
Yeah, and like that's another thing, picking up quote unquote max rarity. It's just something you can do after you found a deck you really enjoy, and you're like, okay, well, this is my deck. And these come in ulti, I don't have those. These come in secret, I don't have those. And it's just kind of like having taken some pride in like the deck you really enjoy playing. And it just gives you something else to do in the meantime while you're not playing, because you can't be playing 24/7. You're going to be at your home in Discord talking to people and looking on TCG Player because you're bored.
Yeah, and I think that is probably my favorite part of it. I mean, I dropped, well, I'll just say over $200 on one of those Korean Sky Striker tokens, just because I love that deck.
Like, it's okay. We've all made bad purchases. Okay,
but,
yeah, I mean,
but it's lovely to look at in my binder.
Yeah, it's like when I randomly spent a couple $100 on OCG Zoo cards. And that was just completely random, pointless. But I love Zoo mirrors, and I wanted the whole deck. You know,
I can't tell you how much money I've spent on the actual Dragon Ruler archetype, buying OCG Supers, the Secret Rares, the Basic Rares, every single engine that was played in Dragon Ruler, Deep Dragoonity, Harad.
Had me pick some up for you when I went to Japan.
So much money I have wasted. Actual, but it's like all gorgeous. I love looking at it, and then not to mention my habit of picking up every single tier 1 deck ever printed, and I have max rarity versions of all of it. Like, oh my god, I'm looking at all the binders I have right now. Actually, kind
of. I guess one of the underlying points we're getting at, besides when you show up to a regional, you put your dick on the table before it gets slapped away, and you go X2 and drop, right? One of the points we're getting at is it's an underlying thing that you can do to enjoy the game and kind of push yourself to be more excited about playing, because
we don't have to drop. We only win around here.
When you get a mail day, like you spent a good amount of money. Let's say you spent $200 on cards for your deck, like upgrades. Like you get that, and you want to go to locals. You want to play with them. You want to get like. You just get some playtime behind them, and I think that's one of the reasons I enjoy it so much.
Mail days at my house are lit,
especially now, like
all the time.
I love mail day.
Doug, what are your closing thoughts? You know, or like you got anything else you want to talk about?
I mean, people will tell you that rarity doesn't matter.
They're lying.
But when you walk into an event, whether it's locals or whether it's regionals, and you know that you've invested the money into that, it does help to boost your confidence. Just knowing that you might have done more than somebody else. And I think that can sometimes just give you that little bit of push that you need. Yeah.
I mean, one thing we didn't even talk about is you having max rarity versus your opponent, right? So when DeBlessin and Wilson was on here, he was talking about how he always looks at his opponent's cards and checks the rarity on them, because it can gauge like, okay, if he's playing all of these cards and me as a player, I know that common just came out and it used to be a $70 card. Now that's the only way it's affordable. Maybe he's not running Lightning Storms on the side deck, or maybe he's not running this expensive card that he probably might not be able to afford. So, I mean, that's just another aspect, but I don't think that's really the point here. I just wanted to bring it up.
I think my favorite part of having all max rarity cards is when I walk into a room with 400 or 500 other people or something like that, or even if I go to a watch, my favorite part is knowing that I simply have the prettiest deck in the room no matter what, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's that confidence that Doug was talking about. So, Joe, is that your final comments?
Oh, yeah, just know, whenever you go to an event, if you have to ask who has the prettiest deck in the room, the answer is always Joe Sullivan. That and Doug has no sauce. Eat my ass.
Man, you gotta do it. He's right here. He's right here. You gonna do him like that?
Yeah. Fuck him.
That's right.
All right. Well, we wanted to take a step back. This was definitely a fun one to talk about, and really enjoyed having Doug on. It was pretty fun. So, if you have enjoyed, please remember to check us out, same time, same place, every single week, 8 a.m., iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, 10 a.m. on YouTube. If you have a topic idea, please reach out and let us know, and we'll be more than happy to talk about it, as long as it's reasonable. So, Doug, your first time formally being introduced on the channel, you got any closing comments?
No. I'll get sauce. Oh, no, coming!
All right. Well, with that being said, I'll see you guys back here next week.